I still don't like the social model of disability because it says I'm only disabled by society's lack of access and accommodations. But even if I had access and accommodations, I still would be disabled by my chronic pain. That is absolutely a fair criticism and also a little bit of a misconception. What? Okay, so I have chronic pain too, and your criticism touches on the one major critique I have with the social model, and that's its semantics. Little history here. When the social model was introduced in the 1980s, there was much more negative societal view of the term disability. So some disability rights groups went with promoting the idea that disability wasn't a bad word, and others tried to distance themselves from the term. So the organization that first started advocating for the social model was trying to redefine what disability meant for the disabled community, which is a pretty arrogant thing to do unilaterally for an entire minority group. Absolutely, but this also happens all the time in our culture and within the disability space to this day. You got one organization pushing for making person first language the default, another says identity first language should be. There's no democratic process, and on top of that, you have these TikTok advocates out here trying to help people and not always getting it right. But I digress. So this organization, with a really long name, decided that they were going to recontextualize the terms disability and impairment. So they began using the social model of disability to claim that disability is what society does to people with impairments. In other words, disability was an external force and impairment was different than this external disabling. Now, the confusion is that people misunderstand the social model, thinking it claims that your impairments will disappear with the accommodations and accessibility, but that's not what the social model claims. The social model was just calling those limitations impairments and not disabilities. It wasn't saying that your disabilities would go away. God, that's confusing. Yeah, especially 40 years later with all the cultural changes around disability that's taken place. Now, if their recontextualization of these terms had caught on, we wouldn't be needing this conversation right now, but I think this can be solved by simply updating the social model's language to be more in line with modern understanding and usage of the term disability. You know, like a social model 2.0 that simply says that there are two disabling forces. One from the person's impairments and another from society's ableism. Well, what if we use the holistic model instead? I think the holistic model is great. It's basically the same core philosophy of the social model, just with the language corrected and some expansion of the social model's ideas. So shouldn't we just use that instead? Well, I think the holistic model needs some work too. How so? I'm gonna need another video.